What is an LLC operating agreement? My name is Andrew Ayers. I'm a business law and estate planning attorney with offices in Edina, Minnesota and New York City. Today, let's look at a very important document when you're creating your LLC, one that not everyone gets around to doing, but it's pretty important that you make sure it gets done. So over the years, I've had a lot of phone calls with prospective clients who've come to me after they've used an online website to set up their LLC. So they paid the money, some filings have been done with the state, maybe they're getting registered agent services from whatever website they purchased the LLC through, and they think they're all set. In some cases, that website also gave them the most important document for your LLC, which is your operating agreement. Sadly, many people who call my office have that LLC operating agreement that they received from the website, but they never actually look at it and they never sign it, and they've left a gaping hole in their LLC. They're missing a lot of protections and a lot of advantages that the LLC can offer you. That hole is going to be your operating agreement. Now, the analogy I use for my clients is that your LLC operating agreement is like your parachute. So let's say you're going skydiving, and you've used an online website to set up your LLC, which is they've got you in the plane and they've got you up in the air. And you finish the process, so the door to the plane is opened up, and then they hand you the parachute, which is your LLC's operating agreement, and then they push you out the door. So you have the operating agreement, you're falling towards the earth, but now you've got to figure out how to get it on, get it secured, and then hopefully get that parachute open before you hit the ground. The other way to do it is to actually work with an attorney, work with a professional to make sure that that parachute is not just handed to you as you're thrown out the side of the plane, but actually strapped on, secured to your body, and a little instruction is given on how to open that parachute. The reason is your operating agreement is going to have a lot of different provisions about your company and how things are going to operate. And in the case of a lawsuit, if somebody sues your LLC and tries to say that you're just using it as a fraud or a sham to hide money, you can show them your operating agreement and say, not at all. Here's the agreement, here's our partners, here's the way the business works. This is a legitimate LLC that should be protecting me from liability. And a lot of people don't ever run into that, but that risk is going to be there. And you want to make sure you have the LLC agreement in place so you don't run into that problem down the road. Now, if you don't have an LLC operating agreement, what that means is that you are agreeing to whatever the rules of your state dictate when it comes to an LLC. So if you have two owners of an LLC and no operating agreement, and you can't come to an agreement about something, you share everything 50-50, that means that in order to break a tie, you're going to have to go to a court and say, we're having a problem. And the formal name of the lawsuit is a dissolution lawsuit, a name that scares a lot of people. For you see, without that operating agreement, you're stuck waiting for a court to decide what should be happening to your business, when all you had to do is have an operating agreement and one that spells out what's going to happen in the case of a tie between voting members, or if there's a dispute, how do we wind up the dispute? So your operating agreement, whether it's given to you by a website or prepared by an attorney, can be a short document, it can be a long document. It's going to be as complex or as simple as your business requires. This is again another advantage of working with a professional. We can get you the right operating agreement, not just an operating agreement with your information mail merged into it. So my clients often are asking me, what is actually in the operating agreement? What do I need to think about when we create it? First thing is going to be the purpose of your LLC. Why are you in business? What is the LLC going to be doing? We're also going to have a provision that's going to be your day-to-day operations. So how is the LLC going to work? Are the members going to manage it? Are we going to hire a separate manager? How are things going to be run in the business? We have to say, who are the members? So who actually owns the LLC? Now, in the case of a single member LLC or a 2 or 3 person LLC, the members may be very clear. Larger LLCs with more members, we may have a really long list of all the different membership interests and how much they own. And it's important to know that you can also own the LLC with another interest. So you can have an LLC that owns your LLC interest. You can actually have your trust own your LLC interest. So it's important to spell out who the actual members of the LLC are. We're also going to detail the duties of the members. What is each member expected to do in the LLC? We talked before about the management of the LLC, whether the members are going to do it or whether a manager is going to be hired to manage the LLC for you. We also have to specify contributions, and this can be very important if you and a couple of friends are starting up a company. One of you may be the one who's putting in the money, someone else may be the sales tactician, and the third person may be the technical person doing a lot of the programming or creating websites and doing other technical things to support the business. So we want to make sure in that case that we have clear contributions and what those values are for each member. If a member wants to leave the LLC, your operating agreement will specify what happens. Does the LLC automatically purchase their interest? Can it be offered for sale to somebody else? What happens if a member gets divorced? So similar to the process for a member leaving, if one of your members gets divorced, you want to have a provision that doesn't allow for that soon-to-be ex-spouse to be a voting member of your LLC, because they're probably not going to want to be part of the business, and they will do everything they can despite their former spouse, and that can create a lot of unlikely problems and unneeded problems with your LLC. What happens if a member dies? So are you going to purchase life insurance on each of the members' lives to protect the LLC in case it has to purchase that member's interest? Can that membership then be transferred to a spouse or a family member or a child or somebody else? We want to make sure we have that spelled out. We also want to spell out whether there's any liabilities of the members. So normally an LLC is created to limit or eliminate our liability for our members, but we want to make sure that's spelled out in our operating agreement. And then going back to the process I talked about before, if we have to dissolve the LLC, if the LLC can no longer function, then we want to have a process spelled out, because without it, you're stuck with a lot of hard feelings, a lot of fighting, and then you have to go to court and sort it all out. So you're going to find a lot of resources online about LLC operating agreements. You can find lots of different forms, but it's important to work with a professional to make sure you're getting the right form for you and your business. Now keep in mind that your LLC operating agreement does not normally get filed with your state. So it's an internal document to the company, and usually along with the operating agreement, we're going to create some corporate resolutions and other corporate documents when you get started, but those don't have to be filed with your state. And that's a question that I get quite often as well from prospective clients is, where do I file my operating agreement? I went online to the Secretary of State, I filed the Articles of Organization, but I can't find that button to file the operating agreement. And the reason is that you don't have to, and most states won't even allow you to. It's an internal document. And finally, for anybody who's watching in New York or is creating a New York LLC, one thing to keep in mind is that New York wants you to create your LLC operating agreement within 90 days of formation of the LLC. It doesn't automatically dissolve your LLC on the 91st day, but there is a requirement under New York law to get that signed within 90 days. I encounter many different clients who've created that LLC and didn't even know, because the website didn't tell them, that they had that 90-day period to create their operating agreement. So you want to make sure if you're doing a New York LLC that you know the provisions that require you to have an operating agreement, and also with that LLC there's publication requirements that can be burdensome and expensive, so you want to make sure you're creating it the correct way. So hopefully you can see the importance of the LLC's operating agreement. But if you have more questions, you want to get started, or you want to talk further about your LLC, you can go to my website, andrewmayers.com. On the front page is a red button where you can schedule a strategy session with my office. It's usually a 15 or 20-minute phone call. We'll hop on the phone, talk about where you are in the process, get your questions answered about your LLC or your other legal questions. If you like this video, you can hit the like or the thumbs up button below. You can hop on over to YouTube and subscribe over there. I hope you've found this helpful with information about your operating agreement. And if you have other questions, please feel free to reach out.